welcome to the second part of our course where we're going to talk about creating that 5S activity and completing that 5S activity for something that's physical. So, in this case, we are going to do a diaper bag. So, a diaper bag is something that I use to change my daughter, and there's specific reasons that I have a diaper bag and a specific process that I go through. So, we'll look at that just as if it was something that we did at work or some other activity at home, and we'll look at how can we organize that effectively to make it as easy as possible. So let's go ahead and look at that example. So the challenge for me is that I'm a first time parent. I've never had a diaper bag before. In fact, you'll see in some of these that I spelled diaper incorrectly in some spaces. That's definitely a defect I'm embarrassed about. So don't be too hard on me. But I'm a first time mom. I don't know that much about a diaper bag. Somebody gave us this lovely diaper bag. It's really beautiful. It's really nice. It has the crossbody strap, it has the other straps. It's a great bag. It has a lot of pockets. It's got a spot for a bottle. It's amazing. But it's also really heavy. So when we put everything in it, it's 9.4 pounds when I weighed it. I have so much trouble finding anything. When I changed my daughter the last time, it took me 17 times of going into the bag to be able to find everything and put everything away. And it took over 5 minutes. I also find that, a lot of junk accumulates when you have a bag like this and it's all just kind of everywhere. Some of the things that I pull out are not going to be the right size for my daughter anymore because she's growing really fast. And it's really hard to restock because I don't know what I've used. So let's look at how we're going to make this better using 5S. The first thing that we're going to do is sort. So, what belongs? So, what I did is I took everything out. And you can see here, I laid out all the items that were in the diaper bag. And then I said, what items are similar? So I'm going to group the things that are similar. So you can see here, I've grouped kind of everything for the changing, and then I have some clothes, and then I have some burp cloths and covers. And so then I asked, well, what actually belongs here? And if I look here, I can see, okay, the changing stuff definitely belongs. I need diaper stuff in the diaper bag. Feeding stuff definitely belongs. I do use that. And then clothes, because sometimes when you do the changing, you actually need to change your clothes as well. But there was this other stuff in there, this trash and this junk, kind of extra paperwork that people had given me, maybe wrappers from whatever item had been in there, and then also a toy tiger that was a decoration on a cake. So that ended up in there too, right? We just throw all this junk in. So then we're going to remove any of those items that don't belong. And that is sort. So we've gone through, we've removed that trash, we've grouped those liked items, and we said what belongs and what doesn't. Then we're going to go ahead and look at set in order. We're going to look at frequency of use. So, how often do I use these items? And you can see here, I've identified kind of those diaper items I use almost every time. The burp cloth, I use almost every time. But I never use this fancy changing mat. I tend to use the disposable one. So even though I have this fancy changing mat in there, I don't actually use it. Now the clothes I use sometimes, but when I do use them, I really need them. And yeah, that kind of gives us an idea. Usually I use the wet bag, but not always. Sometimes there's a trash bin, so I don't have to use it. So that one got a usually as well. So then the next question that we're going to ask is, well, what are the processes that I'm using when or doing when I go through these items? And that kind of helps me group them to another level. So the first thing that I'm using the most often is the changing. And these are all the items and kind of the steps in which I use those to be able to do the changing. The second most common is feeding. So I have a cover as well as a burp cloth. So that's going to be the second most common. And then the third most common activity that I do is changing the clothing or getting warmer clothing. So that's where we have kind of those comfort clothing items. And I realized as I was doing this that there are some spare items when I looked at like what people usually have in here. There are some items that I don't have or that I had extras of as spares. So by having these extras as spares like clothes, it kind of took up space, and I wasn't sure like how many I had in. So I might just add another outfit and add another outfit. And I found an outfit I really liked that I'd like my daughter to wear that she's almost too big for now. So I don't want to kind of lose those outfits in the bag and have the bag be heavier and heavier, right? So I identified as well a few of the spare items that maybe I want to keep in there or that I want to keep visibility of. So these are the processes that I'm going to go through. So this is what you do. You identify those processes, and now I've put these items in order of when I use them. Next, we're going to clean the workspace. So I've identified these four different processes. And to keep this clean and labeled, what I've done is I've put them each into a Ziploc bag. Now, I tend to not like Ziploc bags or like a lot of, plastics and things, but this is going to be the easiest way for me to be able to see what is missing and what is there and keep organized the things that I really need. So we went ahead and we used four plastic bags, and I labeled each of those bags with what they are, as well as what's inside of them, using different colors for each one. Now, the diaper bag that I use the most frequently is going to be the one that's closest to the top, and that's red. So it's going to be really easy for me to see that one. So I created this so that there were also these visual indicators. If this was a physical workspace like at a plant, then you may have tape on the floor, or you may have signs that you put up or labels, right? In this case, I'm going ahead and labeling each of those bags. And then I said, well, how am I going to maintain this? Because that other bag is great, but it has so many pockets and it's so heavy just on its own that I decided to use this hiking backpack that I haven't been using lately. So I went ahead and I filled up this hiking backpack, putting that thing I use least frequently at the bottom. So those spare items I put at the bottom. And the other items I put in from frequency of use. So the first thing that's in there is that diaper bag. And then we have the feeding, and then we have the comfort and the clothing. So those warmer clothes. And putting them in a Ziploc, I was able to pull out the air. So they got a lot smaller. They weren't quite as big as they were in that other bag. So, how will I maintain this? Now, one of the things that I've set in place here that will help me maintain this is I do have a wet bag. And what I will do with that wet bag is put the items that I used in that wet bag, as well as if it's not like wet, like dirty, then I'm going to go ahead and use this front pocket as well. So, like today, I took this out and I was able to put the dirty diaper and the changing mat into the wet bag and the burp cloth into this pocket in front. And those visual indicators, so the wet bag just clips onto the outside, and those visual indicators tell me I need to make those changes, that I need to go ahead and do restocking. Now I know which items that I actually took out because they're in the front here. So, right, that gave me that option there, whereas the other bag didn't give me that visibility. So keeping it up. So my bag went from 9.4 pounds to 4.5 pounds. I went from taking 5 minutes to change to 3.5 minutes. And instead of reaching into my bag 17 times, I only had to reach into the bag 2 times to get the things I needed and then to put those two things back. So I only had to reach in 4 times. This is a huge change, right? And now all I have to do is sustain it. So I need to use those visual indicators like the items on the outside of the bag, so that I can go ahead and make sure that I'm maintaining that. So, this is our physical workspace. This is what it looks like to go ahead and make these changes in something that's physical that we can touch, that's tangible. So, I want you to try one of these as well. At the last session of the course, we're going to talk a little bit more about that, but I want you to think about, what are you going to do? You want something small? What's something small that you could test this out on?